guys.
Holly here. Welcome to day 4 of the 21 Day You Woke Up Worthy journaling experience. Today is all about forgiving others. So, if you watched yesterday's video, that's about forgiving yourself for the things that you've been judging yourself for, blaming yourself for, feeling guilty about, feeling ashamed of, carrying around, and contributing to feeling unworthy. So today is about people that have contributed to you feeling unworthy or not enough. Um, and I thought about this for a while because I think over the course of a lifetime, we experience this in small ways, countless times with countless people, sometimes strangers. But I chose to focus on the people that I would say are the big ones. Um, Maybe because it's something that went on for a long period of time, or it was just deeply impactful when it happened, and the ones that have definitely been the most destructive or damaging in my life. Now, for the record, I I want to be honest about my journey, but I'm telling my story. I'm not trying to tell someone else's story. And someone else is always going to have their own opinion, their own version of events, whatever the case may be. Um, so I will be changing names or, referring to people in some other way, not really identifying, unless I guess you really just know me that well. Uh, so, for example, number one on my list, and this is not a surprise to anyone that does know me in real life, but number one on my list would be my father. My father, more than anyone in my life, has contributed to me feeling bad about myself, feeling like I wasn't enough. Um, my father is an interesting individual. He is very charismatic and he can be very charming. He's the kind of person that draws people to him, but he's also incredibly narcissistic, very cold, and really only likes people if they serve a purpose for whatever his agenda might be. And more than anything, he likes an audience and likes to kind of feel powerful over people. And that's true even within his family. And for a long time, I thought there must be something really wrong with me because the simple truth is my father does not love me. He has no love for me and he hasn't for many years. And that's not me making assumptions or talking through hurt feelings or being dramatic about anything. He has said as much. He has said this, that he has no love for me. And I really thought it was me for a long time because, how awful must you be if your own father doesn't love you? Because fathers automatically love their children. It's just the rules of the universe. So it was really easy to blame myself for that. But I've since realized that, it's not just with me. He doesn't have healthy relationships with really, I think, anyone. He had a horrible, toxic relationship with my mother. Um, he's not good to my brother. Um, though I won't speak any more on that. That's my brother's story. Um, Even with his family, there's been times where he'd go years without speaking to certain people over some ridiculous, simple, silly falling out. But for him, it's always more important to be right. He will never extend an olive branch. He'll never apologize. And as a matter of fact, apparently, this past year or maybe 2 years ago, I deeply angered him by offering not only an apology for my part in us not having a relationship, but I extended forgiveness for his part. And that apparently caused a lot of anger because me offering forgiveness suggested that he had done something wrong, and as far as he's concerned, he never has. So that's the long and the short of him. But the thing with him that feels, or that made me feel so bad, is that it seemed like you were constantly chasing his love or affection. That maybe if I got better grades, or if I liked the same music that he liked, or anything, that he might care about me more. And it's a horrible way for a child to feel. And I felt that way by the time I was 10 years old, and it just stayed that way until I finally just severed that tie and decided I wasn't going to belly crawl anymore. And it's a sad situation. It shouldn't be that way, and it's unfortunate, but I am better off without him in my life. And that's a sad thing to say, because secretly in the back of your mind, there's always that part of you that hopes that maybe one day there will be some miraculous change. And I know the day will come where um, he's he'll die, and I will find out about it after the fact, and I will mourn the loss of a man that never really existed. And I will mourn for the fact that I will know then that there will definitely never be a miraculous change. Nothing will ever be better, and I will never have a father. Um, but I have to forgive him for being broken. Maybe he did the best that he could. I don't know. But I do think that there is something wrong with him. And I have to forgive him for being such a broken, sad man. Um, the next one on my list would be someone that I dated when I was 20 years old. I dated a 36-year-old man, no daddy issues there. We'll call him London. And he was handsome and charming and very charismatic. Um, I did mention no daddy issues, right? Okay, good. Um, and like my father, he was someone that withheld love to a degree. Um, you could say he strung me along a bit. He never made any outright promises, but it was almost like the hint of a promise was teased, that if my hair was grown out longer and was a little blonder, and if I was a little thinner, and it was always if this, then maybe this, if this, then maybe this. And for someone who grew up constantly trying to earn love from the man in her life, being my father, trying to earn love from a man in another relationship, that just seemed normal. And I let him string me on. And it went on for years. Not that we were together for years, but we stayed in contact over the years, and it was so easy for him to, dangle that little string, and I would just go for it and be sucked in again. And I was so relieved when the day came where uh, getting a message from him or hearing his voice on the phone didn't give me butterflies anymore. I just let it go. But there has been resentment that I've carried in the back of my mind over the years, that I think, how unkind of you to waste my time just to stroke your own ego, I guess. So that's another one on my list. The third one would be my ex-husband. And the way that he probably hurt me the most was he broke a lot of promises to me over the years that we were together. And it made me feel like I wasn't worth keeping a promise to. He prioritized his friends' comfort over my feelings. So when I would say things like, please don't let your friends smoke pot in the apartment because I would worry about, getting evicted. Oh yeah, yeah, no, I promise, I promise. And sure enough, and then as his drinking picked up more, we'd fight more and more about it. And I will never forget the day that I said to him, I don't understand why you keep promising me that you're going to do this, and then you just can't tell them. You just can't say, Holly doesn't want you smoking pot in the apartment. And he yelled at me. What am I supposed to do? Tell my friends that they can't smoke because my fucking wife doesn't like it? And he said it with such hostility, and I thought, wow, that's how little I mean. That their habit is more important than my comfort in my own home. And that really made me feel awful. Um, and then the final straw for me with him was a night while he was drunk, because sober he never would have behaved this way. But he punched me one night drunk, and it was in the side of the leg, and it was that one time. But then I knew, like, that's it. He There's no way that he has any respect for me, and that was emotionally, that was the end of my marriage for me. But because he was my friend, and I did care for him, and I did respect him so much at one point, those things coming from him were very hurtful. Um, but at this point, you got to forgive and let go. Next on my list would be another ex-boyfriend of mine. Are you sensing a pattern? We'll call him Copper. This was another longer relationship for me, lasted about 5 years. And in so many ways, he was such a great guy, and still is. And we're still on friendly terms. Um, but the thing that was most hurtful was probably after we split and I had moved back to Florida, and then there came a point where I moved back to Indiana, where he lived, and where I have a lot of family. And part of me wondered if maybe we might reconcile, maybe if things might be different. And he'd made some changes during the time that I was gone. He had gotten more active in church again and things like that. And because I had kind of hidden my spirituality from him during the time that we were together, because I didn't think it was something that he would like, he didn't associate spirituality or faith with me. And in his mind, I think I was like, well, no, you know what? I shouldn't speak for him. I should just say the way that I felt. For him, there was no chance of us reconciling because he was on this spiritual path, and I didn't believe that he saw me as someone that could walk a spiritual path with him. And it felt very much like he didn't think that he could have a relationship with God and me at the same time. which made me feel really bad about myself. And I felt like, wow, who am I that someone thinks that they can't love me and be good with God at the same time. So that was very hurtful, and I was bitter and very, very heartbroken over that for a long time. It actually was more upsetting to me. I was less upset about us not being together than I was about why we weren't. I was fine with the not being together, but his reason for why we couldn't be was actually much more hurtful to me. Um, and then the next one on my list is the first female. And this one was just ongoing. It just went on so long. This was an old friend of mine that I met for the first time. We were 10 years old. And then, my family moved away. We moved a lot when I was growing up. And so we weren't really in each other's lives again, not really until high school, really like junior year of high school. And we were kind of on again, off again friends, I guess you'd say, or sometimes even the term frenemies would apply, I guess. But when we got older, we did spend a lot of time together. We were relatively close, I'd say. I spent a lot of time around her family. I was also friends with her husband. I was friends with her husband before they ever even married, before they ever started dating. So I had a long history with both of them. I, was around watching their kids grow up. And um, our friendship felt very one-sided many times over the years. I would go out of my way a lot for her and not really feeling like that was returned. Um, and, just I guess a couple examples would be, um, and we'll call her Chris. So when I turned 30, I was living in Indiana, and I was dating Copper at the time, and we had plans of, what I was going to do for my 30th birthday, which involved a trip to St. Louis. And we go downstairs to get in the car and start the trip. And wow, Chris is in the parking lot. Um, and I know for a second here, I'm going to sound kind of ungrateful, because the truth is, in my mind, I was like, oh crap, what is she doing here? um, and it was this whole, she drove all the way from Florida to surprise me and help me celebrate my 30th birthday. And so, like I said, I realized that makes me sound really ungrateful. But I know her, I've known her a long time. And the whole trip became about her. And instead of just being about my 30th birthday, it became all about, oh, don't tell my husband we went to a strip club. Oh, don't tell my husband I got a lap dance, and really, she had a problematic marriage. She had for years. I can't tell you how many hours of my life I've spent listening to her whine about her marriage, that she refused to do anything about it. So, you know, um, it gets old. Um, but that's really what she was up there for. Her marriage was in a really bad spot, and she was doing what she normally did, which was run away from it. And so instead of me just having a great time celebrating my birthday, it turned into a long visit listening to her bitch about her marriage. And she really made the whole thing all about her. And even then, I tried to be, a good host, I guess, and, take her around town, show her some different spots. And there were a couple of moments that were okay, but it really was just all about her marriage crap with her husband. Um, she's just really great at making it all about her. And um, then really not being there when I would need her. And the final straw came for me. We had another friend, um, a very, very dear friend of mine, someone who's actually quite precious to me. Um, and she knows as well because we all went to school together. And he suffered a horrible, horrible tragedy, and lost his young child. And as arrangements were being made for the funeral and we were determining, the days of services and things like that, she would check in with me periodically asking, had I heard anything? Did I have any updates? Because he and I are actually closer, so I was communicating with him a little bit more than she was. And she was trying to figure out whether or not she would be able to go based on her work schedule. And then it turned into this whole thing about her debating whether or not she even should go, due to the fact that a couple of other people that might go there had wives that didn't care for her because she's got a history of having sex with inappropriate people. And when I say inappropriate, I mean married men. And she's worried, oh, so and so might be there and his wife hates me. Of course she does. You screwed her husband. I mean, that's what happens. The wives don't like you. Go figure. And all I can sit here and think is a child has died, a young child, and our friend, my dear friend, and someone that you claim is your friend, is going through the worst thing that a human being can go through. And people are gathering to offer support to the family, and you're worried about whether or not you should go because people don't like you, because you slept with their husband, and like, get over yourself. And I couldn't call her out on it in the moment because she's an overly dramatic type. And I knew if I said anything, she would call our grieving friend and again make it about her and how she didn't think she could come to the funeral because I didn't think she should be there. And she would dramatize it in some way. So I just bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. I let it ride. And the funeral came and went. And the holidays rolled around, and I reached out to her because I needed someone, and she couldn't be there for me. um, but then expected me to be there for her for this. She was getting married, and she was having like a courthouse thing, and it was like, oh, you need to be there, and it's like, I needed you to be here, and you couldn't do that. But yet somehow I'm always expected to be there, and she'll do that. She's just insanely selfish and self-centered. And I felt sorry for her for a long time, and I put up with stuff. But the truth is, it grinds away at you over time that you feel like I do, I'm willing to do all of these things for you, and you're not willing to do anything for me. Even when I'm saying like I'm falling apart, my head's a mess, I need help here. And then you start to feel like, all right, well, I guess I'm not worth anything. I'm not, you know, and it grinds away. And there comes a point where you're like, you know what, I'm just done. And it was something that should have been severed long ago. I was better for it. And I felt a little guilty because she had managed to hit me with some guilt about, oh, I can't believe you're doing this to me again, because it's all about her. So it's not about, what's the problem, what can I do to help. It's I can't believe you're doing this to me before my wedding. Me, mine. Um, but I did feel guilty, and so I did try to reach out not long after that, and she wouldn't speak with me. Fine. But I really knew I'd made the right decision when I got into an accident several months back, and I got thrown from a vehicle, and it was a mess, and it was kind of a scary day. Um, I was air flighted to the hospital. My fiance was like out of his mind, terrified, and he had posted on Facebook asking for prayers for me. And she reached out to him and wanted to know, what happened. Is she okay? And he really didn't have all the details yet because he was headed to the hospital, wasn't really sure what was going on. And he says, she was in a car accident, it was bad, whatever. And immediately she reaches out to the same mutual friend that had lost the child, so she could spread the gossip. Oh, Holly was in an accident, she's been air flighted, it's bad. Like, I wouldn't reach out to him to myself, like he wouldn't know about it. He's family. He would know. But that's how she is. Other people's tragedy becomes her gossip. And then not once did she reach out to me and ask me, are you okay? I'm glad you lived. Oh, let's let bygones be bygones, whatever. Not once. Because she didn't care about me, other than she could make it seem like she had interesting, gossip. She had an inside track because it makes her feel important. So I knew, right decision. Um, so again, that, and I've been kind of carrying that around. I reached out to her at one point, um, after my accident, just to say, um, you know, don't pretend like you care just to get a little gossip. Just go away. And I was angry about it. And if I'm honest, there's still, I guess, some resentment there. Um, but let's let that go. Let's let that go and forgive. And here's the important thing that I want to point out: offering forgiveness does not mean that any of the bad behavior is okay. It's not me saying it's okay what you did to me. It's me saying I don't want to carry it around anymore. That's it. Doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean that the people that I've cut out of my life have any wiggle room to get back in. It just means I'm not carrying it around anymore. I'm letting it go. Um, so that's the list of forgiveness. Wow, this one went on a little bit longer than I expected, but forgiveness is it's a really important step in this whole process, I think. So let's get the affirmations done and get on with the day. I woke up worthy today. Just by waking up, I'm worthy of anything my heart desires. I'm a beautiful soul inside and out. I love myself deeply and completely. I am perfect at being me. So that ends today, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 5. Bye.